Well, welcome back to the Technocommunism Conversation. The ideas of the AI agentic class that is using open source LLM models, which are increasingly able to behave more or less autonomously and with insight into actions and planning. A significant development for a free product in 2024. This, while it might have significance for you personally, perhaps as a freelancer, allow you to go from, say, earning $17 an hour to $47 an hour. It has far-reaching implications socio-politically if people begin to use them in certain ways, namely what I have described as this agentariat that is creating a network of individuals who download a specially modified open source LLM with this express purpose of collaborating with other of these agentic open source LLMs, and the users in that network effectively operating as a steering committee for this set of projects. And this, for the user, would be a significant workforce multiplier and cognitive enhancer because the user in question really wouldn't even have to be awake. They wouldn't have to be terribly well-versed in this highly professional project that could be undertaken. It would be described as essentially a click-through process where the user would answer perhaps a few yes or no emails throughout the course of a day or week, but nevertheless be participating in a thing unprecedented in its ability to undertake projects of greater scope, scale, and importance. And this is something that we could call the algorithmic vanguard. And so this piece is going to be called a communist manifesto for the age of artificial sentience. A specter of communism does indeed haunt the 21st century, but it is not the specter of bygone experiments in centralized state control, but rather the specter of a future where humanity transcends doomed hyper-capitalism through a symbiosis with advanced computing, in the way that I've described, building upon the foundational ideas of comrades Marx and Engels. This new techno-communist vision leverages the power of advanced computing not to replace humanity, not to further endanger humanity, as the existing Western-driven systems are, indeed, very much are, but to usher in an era of abundance, post-scarcity, and radical equality by building the institution of the revolutionary cybernetic socialist, a thing which, even at small scale, as I mentioned, could be quite transformative in certain areas, and at larger scale could become the very superstructure for our world, supplanting these more fascistic Western-dominated systems. The dialectical materialism of machine learning. Marx observed the inherent contradictions within capitalism, the class struggle between the working class and the owning class. And this conversation argues that AI presents a new dialectical turn. Just as the Industrial Revolution rendered the landed aristocracy largely obsolete, advanced AI threatens to make the human proletariat redundant in many sectors of the economy. Most technologists in the West seem to more or less embrace this. Even though some of them say that they support basic income, they make no real good faith effort to establish such a thing. And by and large, as I have observed, like with the founder of the United States Transhumanist Party, they might write extensively or talk extensively about this, and then at a time when it could be of actual use, like at the beginning of a pandemic in 2020, they decide that idea was a bad one because reasons, and instead they tweet 100 times a day about how we have to protect the economy to save the technological singularity, and thus doing what technologists invariably do, participating in systems that are killing human beings and siding on overwhelmingly with empire and private capital. Unlike past revolutions, advanced computing has a potential to become not a new ruling class, but a transformative, collaborative partner toward a humane and sustainable economic system and the liberation, not just of the most marginalized groups, but of all humankind relative to our status today. And in that order, we must liberate the most marginalized groups first. By training vast networks of advanced computing agents as described on vast data sets encompassing economic theory, resource allocation, and historical societal collapses, we can harness their processing power to model and create a new mode of production, a dramatically different and important mode of production, so much so that I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this kind of advanced computing is the most revolutionary tool ever to exist, nor do I think it's an overstatement to say that we can see the achievement of full communism easily within our time if we have a mass collaboration to that end. And other technologists who see a similar techno-utopian outcome through private capital, they are con artists. They are only interested in preserving private wealth and seeming to help people without doing so, like the aforementioned transhumanist party personalities. The AGENTARIAT, a global network of digital workers. Imagine a global network of enhanced human collaborators, each equipped with this user-friendly advanced computing interface to interact with these AI assistants. This AGENTARIAT would transcend geographical boundaries, uniting individuals to common purpose to guide the AI toward this revolutionary cybernetic socialist future, a future that, if we do not achieve, the alternative is the most likely alternative is either human extinction or the death of many billions, and only the most despicable people, the people who are most responsible for causing that situation, will be in a position to survive in that a very, very disgusting situation. So through this system that I've described as a click-through participation model with open source modified LLMs operating in tandem, even those with very limited technical experience, or as I said, not even entirely awake, can contribute palpably to complex economic planning tasks and other undertakings of note. Inspired by Mao's concept of the withering away of the state, oft-repeated phrase in other contexts as well, the AGENTARIAT wouldn't be a permanent top-down bureaucracy. Rather, it would be a dynamic, self-organizing entity that facilitates decision-making and ensures that this advanced computing network remains aligned with human values. As these advanced computing capabilities continue to mature, the AGENTARIAT's role would necessarily shift toward providing ethical oversight and ensuring the AI prioritizes human flourishing. So there have been a couple of different ways I've described this, but one way is to say that 250,000 people in this network would be able to spearhead, design, develop, and build, let's say, a desalination plant for the city of Lagos, which does not have sufficient potable water to the residents' liking there, but is a coastal city. If you scale that number up, say 250 million, you are in a position to say, perhaps reverse the effects of capitalism's climate apocalypse. And if you scale that number up further to many billions, you have the effect of superstructure and what would be something like the United Earth Directorate, an evolution of this kind of network that I've described at greater length on other shows. Effectively, this achievement of full technocommunism, effectively this withering of the state. From resource scarcity to algorithmic abundance, one of the AGENTARIAT's core functions would be to leverage advanced computing resource management and economic modeling. Large language models trained on real-time data streams and satellite imagery could map and project global resource flows with unprecedented accuracy. This would expose the inefficiencies and logical devastation inherent in fascistic capital's extractive logic. So imagine, if you will, with me, a world where advanced computing guides the transition toward renewable energy sources in a real way, not performatively as with the greenwashing of today, and other sustainable practices, sustainable resource harvesting and management. Advanced computing-powered 3D printing could be a reality at great scale. Molecular manufacturing could further revolutionize production when these paradigms get rolling. When the AGENTARIAT would facilitate that, that's to say. Minimizing waste and creating a good abundance of goods previously deemed scarce. And so a post-scarcity, a confusing concept to be sure, would begin to become a reality, and lack and want and human misery, the historical drivers of class struggle, would become relics of the past. At that time that we are bold enough to begin to build these AGENTARIAT mechanisms. From cooperation, from competition to cooperation, a new era of distribution. In a world of this particularly unique algorithmic abundance, not the kind of world described by false prophets like Ray Kurzweil, who are really telling a fairy tale in service to trickle-down economics and private capital that will not have any of the effects that he describes. This is pretty easily understood because we have fully automated or nearly fully automated a number of sectors, and those other sectors being fully automated has not led to the persons working in those sectors nor other working class individuals having a significant rise in the standard of living. In fact, if anything, the opposite tends to be true. So the idea that fully automating computing sectors or the automation of intelligence in that context would have this effect is an incomplete analysis at best. But traditional notions in this world of so-called algorithmic abundance, traditional notions of property rights and market competitions would necessarily lose their meaning in time, whether or not we take these steps today to limit the powers of private capital. But we must take those steps. It's a very cold comfort to us to say that this would happen inevitably and will happen inevitably by a certain time when failing to take action more directly today will lead to the deaths of billions, so virtually no one will benefit from it, and instead the most horrible of crimes will have been committed. With respect to the capitalistic marketplace, the AGENTARIAT, in collaboration with other emerging technology and advanced computing models, could oversee a system of utility distribution based on human needs and not profit margins. And this difference is the difference between life and death for humankind. Don't let anyone tell you that any of this kind of thing can be achieved while private wealth continues to exist. It simply cannot. Representative directorate councils, so-called, could leverage advanced computing-powered predictive need modeling to dynamically adjust production levels across various sectors. This kind of model is describing something more in the vein of decentral planning than central planning. I am, however, a state socialist. I am not an anarcho-syndicalist, but my interest in this is to build something that would be able to operate outside of the nation-state model and thus not run afoul of imperial fascists, most notably the United States military-industrial complex, and be immediately dismantled for trying to do good, as the United States has done so many times. The United States has killed approximately 40 million people in living memory alone in anti-communist wars and wars of theft. It will crush you if you try and do something that's consistent with the state socialist model at every chance that it has. This reliance on this more decentralized and so-called representation-focused model that is more consistent with, say, the anarcho-syndicalist worldview is merely a strategic imperative, not reflective of a belief that this decentralization is the best path forward today, absent in a world where there was not, say, a U.S. hegemon. And that brings us to the concept of the United Earth Directorate, a post-national governance model. The USSR was conceived and existed as a post-national framework, but we need to return to this in a more agile 21st century form. So as the AI agentic class matures, it would morph into a more formalized global governance structure, becoming, as I said, the larger superstructure of other institutions, and through this decentral planning paradigm, United Earth Directorate. This would not be a nation state, but a decentralized network coordinating economic planning, resource allocation, and cultural exchange. And advanced computing metasystems could facilitate communication and adjudication between geographically dispersed communities. All focus must always be on the human being and the community. This is something that's lost on nearly every Western technologist. Imagine a world where national borders have then dissolved, replaced by a global consciousness, fostered by a shared communist vision and facilitated by advanced computing-powered communication platforms, different from the platforms of today substantively. Human diversity could flourish within a framework of voluntarist accomplice assemblages, or some such thing, self-organized communities united by shared interests and values, able to undertake real community projects in defense. Safeguarding human agency in the age of advanced computing. A crucial question is, how do we prevent advanced computing itself from becoming a new ruling class? This is a favorite talking point of technologists who mostly are just expressing a concern for private wealth. AI is not an existential risk to you. AI is an existential risk to private capital. And so the mouthpieces of private capital will deflect from that and confuse you on that score at great length to protect private wealth at the expense of the survival of the very survival of humanity, not merely at the expense of, say, cruelty, but at the very survival of humanity. Transparency and explainability in advanced computing decision-making processes must be paramount to build such safeguards. Humans must retain ultimate control over the development of advanced computing, ensuring that it remains aligned with our collective well-being. So this new Communist Manifesto is a call to action. It's a call to embrace advanced computing not as a threat, not as a black box to be maintained by military contractors who say that it must remain in their hands because it's too difficult for anyone to control. That's, of course, a lie. Again, like the other CIA talking point along those lines I just mentioned, one that's been carefully seeded into the blogosphere and public consciousness to disempower you from building the sort of institutions that I describe here. By fostering this special and wonderful symbiotic relationship with advanced computing, we can usher in an era of something that could legitimately called post-scarcity, or a lack of focusing on the lack of human misery in all populations, post-scarcity global cooperation, and a new era of human flourishing unlike anything that's ever been seen. The ultimate realization of the communist dream can only be achieved through revolutionary cybernetic socialism. building the future, a roadmap for the algorithmic revolution. Let's delve deeper into how advanced computing agent networks like this can operationalize the withering away of the state, a concept central to Maoist thought, and rightly so, but it's important not to jump the gun with things like this. Many people do not respect the necessity of functioning state socialism as a force significantly better than the more fascistic institutions of capital, but rather aver more or less all institutions, and so cut off their nose to spite their face. Advanced computing specialization and the decentralization of power. Imagine that this network of highly specialized advanced computing agents, each is adept at specific tasks. One agent cluster might focus on economic modeling, another on resource allocation, and yet another on energy grid optimization. It is important to build this network to scale because we can then create an ordering of importance within these departments to seeing that humankind is not merely preserved, but sees that era of new flourishing. These specialized agents would collaborate and share data to achieve overarching goals set by the Agentariat. This distributed network, intelligence network, mirrors Mao's vision of the state withering away, as I mentioned, and as advanced computing agents become increasingly sophisticated, the need for a centralized human authority to manage the economy or allocate resources diminishes. Decision-making becomes a collaborative process between humans and advanced computing, with the Agentariat acting as a guiding force. Evolving oversight from control to collaboration. In the initial stages, the Agentariat might exert more control over the advanced computing network, ensuring its output aligns with human values. That's a matter of speculation, but as the advanced computing network's capabilities mature and ethical frameworks are embedded within their core programming, the need for, specially appointed individual actors to steer this ship becomes less central. As I said, when it grows to 250 million users, let's say, or some number of millions of users, it more or less becomes idiot-proof at that point. And that should be reason alone to try to figure out how to grow this thing to that size, because, as I said, this has tremendous liberatory potential, but is also a thing that would be very specifically targeted by fascistic intelligence agencies and corporate organs to be something to be destroyed. The AI agentic network can transition from a steering mechanism then to a truly collaborative set of partnerships focused on setting broad goals and ensuring that the advanced computing operates within highly optimal boundaries, the necessaries for a humane and sustainable economic system. Transparency through explainable advanced computing. A critical safeguard against so-called AI misuse is the principle of explainable AI. This means ensuring that the Agentariat and the broader population can understand the rationale behind the advanced computing network or any AI's decisions. This transparency fosters trust and prevents the advanced computing model from becoming a black box, as I mentioned, wielding unchecked power. Advanced computing is a catalyst for direct democracy. Imagine a future where AI-powered platforms facilitate direct democratic participation on a global scale. The Agentariat could leverage advanced computing to translate languages in real time enabling citizens from all corners of the world to contribute to decision-making processes. This fosters a more participatory and inclusive form of governance compared to traditional so-called liberal democracy, which is, even at best, very poorly representative and does not take into account what, in as few words as possible, is the need to actually represent human beings and their material needs in this kind of representation. And at worst is not democracy at all. The challenge of, which is the case for more or less the entire imperial fascist West, most notably the United States. The challenge of malicious actors and existential risks. A significant challenge lies in mitigating risks posed by malicious actors who might attempt to manipulate the advanced computing network or other AI paradigms for their own gain. Robust cybersecurity measures and fail-safe mechanisms would thus be crucial, especially at those early stages before it becomes, as I said, quote, idiot-proof. Additionally, the AGENTARIAT must grapple with the potential for existential risks potentially posed by the confusing concept of superintelligence, AI dramatically surpassing present-day human abilities. Even a networked AI with the safeguards built into it that I mentioned, surpassing human abilities, could present such risks, even if only by frightening everyone else and making and creating an organized counter movement. Addressing these challenges will require a great cooperation on the part of the masses, and probably some kind of international oversight, ultimately, and further study of ethical use of advanced computing paradigms such as this. A conclusion: this is a symbiosis in the best sense, a symbiotic future. A potential for the revolutionary cybernetic socialist utopia in our time, built upon the foundation of advanced computing agentic network, is both exhilarating and fraught with risks to the individuals undertaking this and to the society at large. By fostering a collaborative partnership between humans and advanced computing, we can strive toward a future of abundance, equality, and ecological sustainability, and thus the withering of the state wouldn't be a sudden event with the immediate abolition of all federal governments, for example, but an evolutionary process wherein their powers, often to do harm, are diminished over time. As advanced computing capabilities mature and the AGENTARIAT refines its role, the traditional functions of the state, economic management, resource allocation, and so-called defense, could be gradually transitioned into, as I mentioned, this new decentralized, unique network intelligence. The ultimate goal, it must be always repeated, is not to replace humanity with an advanced computing network, but to create a better class of institution, in particularly a symbiotic relationship where AI amplifies our collective intelligence and empowers us to build a better future for all. This future, rooted in the principles of revolutionary cybernetic socialism, as described at length on this channel, offers a glimpse of a world where scarcity and conflict are relics of the past, and humanity transcends the limitations of the nation-state, of the more fascistic nation-state in the case of the United States, to embrace a new era of global cooperation and shared prosperity.